everyone, Gnome is here, and I have been tagged once again. Well, not directly, but there's a YouTuber that I follow called Andrea Heckler. She's a pretty awesome YouTuber, and she's quite popular, so if you're not subscribed to her, or you haven't heard of her, there's going to be a link to her show and to her tag video provided below. She did the Tolkien Tag. I really think that this is an awesome tag because of the fact that I am a huge fan of Tolkien literature, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, I love it all, movies as well, and I really appreciated the questions that she asked, and I would have been a fool not to actually do this tag. So I'm going to go through the questions, and of course they will also be provided in the box below, so let's get started. Question number 1 is, where does your Middle-earth story begin? Well, it started when I was, I guess, 10, but not officially. When I was 10, I had a friend who was really into the Tolkien books, and he was always talking to me about how they would make awesome movies. At that time, there were even rumors of the movies becoming a reality, and that Sean Connery had been approached to play the role of Gandalf. Well, that obviously didn't happen. But then, a little bit further in time, when I was about 12 or 13, I reunited with a really good friend of mine, and he told me about the Hobbit animated film. But my true Middle-earth adventure begins in 2000 when I picked up the Hobbit book because I knew that the Lord of the Rings films were coming to the big screen, and I wanted to make sure that I read the books before the movies were created. So, started with the Hobbit, and the Lord of the Rings books followed, and concluded with the Silmarillion, and The Hobbit was just one of the greatest adventure stories that I ever read, and I was really hyped to read the rest of the story and see the movies as well. Question number 2 is, what is your favorite Middle-earth book? That would be The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. I love the fact that it's two completely different stories taking place around the same time, flowing into the events of Return of the King. The first half of the book is the story of Legolas, Aragorn, and Gimli, and the second part is the story of Frodo, Sam, and Gollum. Two completely different stories, two completely different encounters and adventures throughout Middle-earth, and I just loved how these two stories unfolded and connected at the very end to make us prepared for the Return of the King. You couldn't really do the same thing in the movie because it would have probably been a little bit more complicated. You would have had to make two separate movies, but that wasn't going to happen. You know, you gotta sacrifice a couple of things for the sake of cinema, but I loved the way the book was written, and that's why it's my favorite book. Question number 3 is, what is your favorite film? That would be The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. I don't know what it is about it, but I just feel at peace when I'm watching it. Maybe it's because of the fact that throughout the trilogy, that's where they spend the most time in locations like the Shire and Rivendell, and Lothlorien also is very tranquil and very mystical and peaceful, but when you take a look at the other two movies, they're not always in the lap of luxury. Even though Rohan and Gondor are very prosperous human kingdoms, they just don't have the warmth that the Shire and Rivendell have. It's like they're all big, massive, cold-looking stone and wood formations, while the Shire is very cozy. Rivendell is just filled with libraries and pillows and plant life everywhere. It just feels so relaxing in The Fellowship of the Ring. And it's also got the greatest moments of the Hobbits, at least as far as I'm concerned, and I just love their lifestyle. Question number 4 is, what do you prefer, the books or the movies? Well, the books are holy objects as far as I'm concerned, but the movies to me are so much better than the books. And it's just because of the way that Peter Jackson and all of these people that were behind him on these projects brought Middle-earth to life. Even though there were a couple of things that he changed, you saw it more often in the Hobbit films than you did in the Lord of the Rings movies, he just made the stories move better, and he took out all the stuff that wasn't really necessary, like the whole thing with Tom Bombadil or the ending of the Return of the King. Those were things that just didn't seem like they had to be there, and I feel that the movies turned this story into a truly complete masterpiece, and that's the way I always praise all of these movies. They're timeless, they are classics, they are masterpieces, they will probably never be redone or recreated because it's just no reason to do so. And that's why, as great as the books are and how much of a treasure they are to the world, these movies are just as much of a treasure as the books are. And that pretty much leads into the 5th question, which is, who are your favorite characters? And no surprise, they are hobbits. My favorite characters are Merry and Pippin. They are the comedic duo. They have so much personality, fun and serious all at the same time. They care about each other, they care about their friends. It was amazing to see them start off as goofballs and end up as heroes of Middle-earth. I just appreciate their charm, and they are probably two of the most charming characters, and that's probably why I like them so much. Question number 6 is, which Middle-earth race would you be? Oh, no question, it would be a hobbit. I love the lifestyle. I love the characters that are the hobbits. I love the Shire. The concept of just living a simple and peaceful life in a beautiful place like the Shire. Eating, drinking, partying. I mean, who wouldn't want to live in the Shire? Come on! If you don't want to live in the Shire, I'd really like to know why. Question number 7 was a very interesting one. What was the best actor and character match in Lord of the Rings? And that basically means, like, which actor really filled the character's shoes well. That would be Christopher Lee as Saruman. Christopher Lee is a huge Lord of the Rings fan. If you watch the special features of the extended edition, when you start with Fellowship, he talks about how he adores Tolkien's work and how he reads the Lord of the Rings once a year. So him playing a character like Saruman was absolutely perfect. He brought all of his prowess and put all of his heart and soul into that role, and you can definitely see that he truly enjoyed playing that role compared to the other role he took on, which was Count Dooku in the prequel Star Wars trilogy. The films kind of shafted him in the theatrical releases, but in the extended editions, they added more to him, especially that amazing scene in Return of the King with him. He just epitomized Saruman, and even in the Hobbit movies, he really was fantastic as that character. So question number 8 is, what is your favorite place in Middle-earth? Believe it or not, it's Erebor during its prosperous time. Yes, I love the peacefulness of the Shire, but there's just something about Erebor, especially when you watch the beginning of The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey. You feel so proud when you see those scenes in the film. You would feel even prouder if you actually lived amongst these amazing gods and kings of the underground in the world of dwarves. Even though they were small in stature compared to humans and elves, you could tell that they just appreciated what they were and where they were and didn't think twice about it. And the last question that was given in the tag was, what is your favorite quote from the books or movies? Well, I had mentioned this in a video, and it's the scene in Return of the King where Frodo and Sam are climbing Mount Doom. It is one of the most beautiful, incredible moments. You, like, burst into tears when you see this. It's when Sam goes to Frodo and says, I can't carry the ring, Mr. Frodo, but I can carry you. He then throws Frodo on his back, even though he is extremely weak. You hear that blast of horns from the Howard Shore score, which is the instrumental version of Into the West, which is the end credits of Return of the King, sung by Annie Lennox. When I saw it, I just said, give Sean Astin the Oscar and give it to him now. But I'm kind of glad he didn't get nominated, because no one should have been singled out for their performances. Lord of the Rings was a group effort. And I want to actually add a question, speaking of music, because I love music. I feel that it's very underappreciated, especially when it comes to the movies, even in the books, because there's poems, and in the movies they add song melodies to these poems. So I also am going to ask you, Andrea, if you can answer this question in the comment box when you see this. What is your favorite score song from Howard Shore in the trilogy, or also in the Hobbit films as well? And what is your favorite end credit song? Well, my favorite classical score song is definitely Evenstar from The Two Towers. I mean, it is one of the most beautiful things that I have ever heard in all of the Lord of the Rings. But my favorite end credit song, hands down, I See Fire by Ed Sheeran, and that was at the end credits of The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug. I was so pissed off that that song did not get nominated for Best Original Score in the 2014 Oscar ceremonies. I mean, that was one of the most amazing and beautiful songs that I had ever heard, and it surprised the heck out of me that it was Ed Sheeran that was singing it, because you had artists like Annie Lennox and Enya in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, but then you had Ed Sheeran in The Hobbit. it. I think for that song specifically, it changed my feelings towards Ed Sheeran, and now that I've seen what his sophomore album is like, it's a beautiful album, and he truly has turned out to be, thanks to this song, one of the best pop artists in music today. So thank you very much, guys. I really appreciated taking the time out to do this. And I also want to recommend you all out there, if you are really Lord of the Rings fans, you should totally listen to this band Blind Guardian. Yes, they're heavy metal, but they're a very different kind. They're from Germany, and the lead singer, Hansi Koresh, is unreal. One of the best vocalists I've ever heard. His band, especially in their early years, have done albums that are all about Lord of the Rings and all of the Tolkien literature. This specific one, Nightfall in Middle-earth, is all about the Silmarillion, and even the album cover, if you can see, that is actually Melkor with the Silmaril in his crown on his head. Lord of the Rings is everywhere, guys, and it's definitely impacted a whole bunch of people in all different ways, so that's just a little bit of a taste that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So, Andrea, thank you very much for doing this tag. I'm so glad that you allowed us all to be a part of this. I'm hoping that you'll answer that new question that I added. And now the fun part. It's time for me to tag a few people. So here's who I'm going to tag, because I know a good portion of you are Lord of the Rings fans. I'm going to tag Novels and Nonsense. I'm going to tag Bre Faucheux. I'm not sure if you've read the book, so if you didn't, I'm sorry. Gwendolyn Reading Method. I know she reads a lot of fantasy. Kristina Rast. And Nerdgirl Forever. You've all been tagged. I'd love to see what your answers are, and I am looking forward to doing another tag. I'm going to be doing a music tag. Finally excited to get this one done. So thank you all for watching. As always, I will see you in the next one, and actions speak louder than words.